Yep, no problem.
Now that we've hit record, I can do my song and dance, which is the only reason I was brought here today.
You can do your song and dance anytime. We're just gonna trim it out anyway. It's okay. Oh, we're recording now. I didn't say that. Okay, people are still coming in, so I'm just gonna wait a little bit more.
Okay, no worries.
You let me know when it kind of dies down. I guess we all know. Wow, look at this. I think my cat's trying to get into the room. Okay, are we good? We're gonna go? Let's go. Welcome everybody to this webinar presented by PolyHP, CDW, of course, and I don't know if Microsoft's sponsoring this at all or not, but that's okay. We're calling this Empower Your Employees in the Digital Workspace. My name's Sherman, and with me is Glenn. I'm a solution architect for, we don't know if we're going to go with modern work, modern workplace, modern workspace. We're still figuring that out, so I just put modern work. I'm based out of Vancouver. I'm what's called a solution architect, which means I'll work on the technical pre-sale side of things. Many years of SharePoint experience, translating into then SharePoint Online, Office 365, Microsoft 365, and of course Microsoft Teams as well, being an integral part of that. With me today is Glenn from PolyHP, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Glenn.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Glenn Bevkar. I'm the Senior National Channel Account Manager for Poly. I've supported the CDW and Poly partnership for about 3 years now. I actually hail back from the Polycom days. So prior to the Plantronics acquisition of Polycom, I started with Polycom 10 years ago. And over my tenure, I held a number of different roles. Today, I'm actually Canadian, but I'm not in Canada today. I'm actually stateside. So I'm coming to you from a remote location. So hopefully the technology around here holds up, and we'll be able to show you what working from anywhere is like. So with that, I'm going to actually touch on the first thing. So many of you may or may not have heard around Poly and the HP acquisition of Poly. I just wanted to provide some context around it. It doesn't change, it's business as usual. It is an acquisition that both Poly and HP are extremely excited about. I wanted to touch base on this because it really does address a new opportunity for not just Poly and HP, but also for our resellers and our clients to be able to leverage a breadth of portfolio. As you know, Poly is synonymous around video and voice collaboration, and HP is synonymous around print and around personal computing. And so
Oh, Glenn, I think you're muted.
Glenn, you just, suddenly muted. Must be the beta software you're working on that's recognizing your hand gestures. Oh, I wasn't supposed to talk about that.
I'm actually going to slide that mouse right over to the side there. So so it's actually an opportunity for us to be able to bring our proprietary technologies together to really be able to address that future of hybrid work and the challenges that you and your users face in your environments today. So with that being said, today, as part of our session, we appreciate you taking the time and appreciate you coming and listening to us. I know there's many other things you could be doing, so I want to appreciate you for that. And as part of that appreciation, we're going to be giving away one of 5 Sync 20 speakerphone devices today. The way to participate in that, or to be a contestant in that, would be for you to be able to submit a question either through the chat or submit a question live towards at the end during our Q&A session. So with that being said, I'll turn it back to you, Sherman.
A Poly Sync 20, I'd show you one on camera, but I don't have one.
Ask a question.
So for those of you that are kind of coming in a little bit late, you haven't missed anything too much. We just introduced ourselves. Glenn talked about the Poly HP partnership acquisition. I'm not sure what the official phrasing is. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to look into the modern workplace, hybrid work, some trends and what's going on in the market. We're going to talk about Microsoft Teams, of course, and how that helps. Then we're going to dive into a lot about Poly and how it enriches, enhances the team's experience. And then we're going to wrap things up. So quite a bit of content to go through. Again, Q&A, we'll do that at the end, but feel free absolutely to put your questions in the chat. It's being moderated by a few of our coworkers and peers. And so off we go. The new hybrid workplace. So let's talk a little bit about, again, where the market's been the last, really, I mean, it's got shot through the roof in the last 3 years or so, right? The hybrid workplace, what does that mean? And maybe perhaps why we don't really need to use the word new anymore. So this is from some statistics from in the 2020 days, pandemic hit, everyone worked from home. So questions were asked to organizations. What do you want to do? What do you think you're going to do when this pandemic thing is over, whenever that was going to be? Because we didn't know at the time, right? And you can see the stats there. People are saying, hey, we're going to allow remote working after the pandemic. And we know that in order for us to do that, we're going to need to also be able to see each other. So just like right now, I have my webcam from years ago. I'm using that still. Got my Poly P5 on standby. And you remember the webcam shortage, right? So we all know that video is critical, and 89% of people say that, companies surveys say that. At that time, also, there was a scramble to say, which collaboration tool are we going to use? It became the critical app for us to stay connected to each other. And we kind of took that for granted when we're in the office place, right? So do we all have the tools we need to work in this new structure? That's kind of what we want to think about moving forward in 2022 and beyond. So what's happened in the last few years? Rapid growth, all the collaboration software and everything around it. So whether it's Teams, SharePoint, Zoom, WebEx, all of the above, all of that's gone through the roof. Microsoft is the clear number one, though. I'm not biased. I'm just saying these are stats. And by the way, I'll reiterate, I do not work for Microsoft. I do work for CDW, but the facts are the facts. There's a reason why Microsoft is number one. It kind of makes sense. It's all bundled together as part of your cloud software services with Microsoft 365, Office 365. So we know this is growing. But we know that it remains a top priority for the leaders in the workforce. So staying connected is harder. I know this is a heavy statistical slide. This is courtesy of Microsoft. They love their stats. And they've been doing this thing called a study called the Work Trend Index Report. They did one in 2021, I think, and this was from 2022. I guess I want to highlight. I hope my pen works here. There we go. Fancy. Ooh. Most of the people say they don't feel included in meetings when they're remote, right? If you remember prior to 2020, so in the 2019 and all that, you could have 9 people in the office, they're having a meeting, and you have one person calling in. There was no video experience. It was kind of the forgotten person. Well, obviously the pandemic changed that. Everyone was at home, but then they're still saying, if you can't see me, then I don't feel like I'm part of the meeting. Secondly, the second stat I'll point out is that for the people that are in the office, they say that they would use the conferencing rooms more if they were easier to use, better equipped, sounds clear, looks clear, and all that. As a result, then, a lot of leaders are saying, we're going to invest into that space to make them more hybrid friendly in years to come, right? This is an investment that's not just going to be for 2022, 2023. It's going to last forever because we're not going back to the way we were. That sounds like a Barbra Streisand song, I think. So we're not quite settled into this. We know that companies are continuing to make investments into all of this. So when addressing the needs of a hybrid workforce, we need to look at several factors. What location are you in? You're not at the office anymore. We know about the home office, but that might not be the case either. You might be in a shared location. There's these shared office spaces now. You could be at your favorite coffee shop, which means what network are you going to be on? I have a pretty good home internet connection. Someone might not. You have to factor all these things into account as an organization. What platform are you using? Mac, Windows? Are you on Android? Are you on your phone at the given moment? What type of work pattern do you have? Maybe you're no longer 8 to 4, 8 to 5, whatever. And you have to think about all of that. So we want to provide workers with flexibility to work from anywhere, but also deliver a consistent experience across those spaces and devices. And this mindset allows us to provide more equitable experiences for all so that everyone in the meeting can participate fully. And that's a theme that you're going to probably hear throughout this presentation is equality. Both Poly HP and Microsoft are in the same mindset there. We want all participants in a meeting to have equal footing, as this slide is saying. So I'm not going to, again, kind of dive too deep into this slide. Basically, we know what happened pre-pandemic. Once the pandemic hit, everyone's home. We're all at an even playing field. We all had equal screen time if you choose to turn your camera on. But really, we have to think about, does everybody have the equipment that they need? Okay, fine. So the last 2 years, I've equipped my home office to have a good camera, a good mic, good speaker, a good headset when needed. Because sometimes I might need to wander around, get a coffee or whatever. But as some of us return to the office, and that's where hybrid comes in, right? Do the offices have the equipment necessary to give us all a good experience? And again, when designing all of this stuff and thinking about all this, you have to take both factors into account, both the remote worker and the ones in the office. Just want to make sure, yeah, it's only hybrid when we have both elements, right? People are both away working remotely and people in the office. And the thing is, you won't know what percentage it'll be on any given day. And it'll be different for every organization. It'll be different for every industry. I want to talk a bit about Microsoft's hybrid vision. Obviously, these aren't my slides. This is coming directly from Microsoft. They look at 3 crucial user experiences at the foundation for their hybrid vision, which focuses on being able to see, hear, and collaborate with their team. So those 3 items. To hear and be heard. Obviously, if you can't hear me right now, this webinar is completely useless. You can see me, but I'm just a talking head, except you don't hear anything. But it's not just about hearing me clearly. It's about what other elements allow me to be, quote unquote, heard. Could be the chat mechanism, right? So does your collaboration software allow for that? So as Microsoft is thinking about the hybrid space and their vision, they're looking at all of that, not just the literal audio sense. To be seen and be seen means, again, if I choose to turn my camera on at a given time, again, I'm working from home obviously today. Can you see me clearly? It's no good if my camera isn't able to, if you see a fuzzy face, that's not really, I might as well turn it off. So the hardware has to work with the software. Same is true for in room. If I'm only seeing, if there's 10 people, I know that there's 10 people in a meeting room at the downtown office, but I only see 6 of them because the camera isn't giving me a good field of vision, then it's not the right camera in that room. So it doesn't, did my camera just flash? Did my camera light just flash? So I'm like, oh, don't fail me now. I'm talking about you. We want to make it, the see and be seen makes it possible to read the room, be aware of nonverbal communication. Did something I say resonate with someone in a different way than maybe I intended? And I can pick up on that. So it's important to see and be seen. And finally, obviously, the whole purpose of having a meeting is to foster and enable collaboration. I'm not having a meeting with myself to work on a PowerPoint deck by myself, right? Then that's not a meeting. But when Glenn and I worked on this PowerPoint deck together, we absolutely did that, right? We did co-authoring in PowerPoint. We had meetings and we moved slides around and we made notes. So the tools have to allow us to do that. We're obviously trying to get something done. So all 3 of these experiences combine to create an immersive, inclusive meeting experience. What else I want to say here? I think that was it. Okay, let's talk a little about teams and teams rooms. I'm going to go quickly over. Hopefully, most of us on this call, have a good experience with Teams. You're fairly aware of what it is. Teams obviously is in. The messaging is it's our single collaboration app, our single pane of glass into our content, into our work, and we don't have to leave it. We can stay in Teams. It brings together chat, voice, video calls, collaboration, meeting files, and even sometimes business processes, right? I can actually access my SAP or ServiceNow tasks directly inside a Teams window. So over the last few years, as Teams has evolved and features has improved, and they add more and more things, they're adding, and I'll go over some things later that they're adding this year. We also need to have the software to complement that. So companies like Poly has also evolved as their innovation comes to play. So they're introducing their technology, and it works very well together and jives very well together with Microsoft Teams. They work together to give you the best experience, whether it's in the office. And again, when I say in the office, well, that's a big place. Is it my cubicle? Is it the conference room? Is it a huddle room? Or is it in my home or on the go? Right? All of those are different scenarios. And what I take, I'm obviously not going to take my boom microphone and my speaker set with me on the road. So, I'm going to have something like this Voyager headset with me, throw it in my bag, and I can have a really good meeting experience as I go. Yeah, so if Teams and Teams Rooms in particular was designed around 4 big pillars of value, again, from a Microsoft perspective. The first is inclusivity. Again, returning to the theme of experiences. The takeaway here is we want everyone to be equal participants. So using various technologies like AI, real-time collaboration with whiteboard experience, intelligent transcription, all of these things means that everyone has a seat at the table, I guess, so to speak, right? So Microsoft keeps that in mind as it's continuing to evolve and build features and capabilities into Teams. It's got to be easy to use. Teams is built with it to be as intuitive as possible. You may or may not agree, but because it's trying to do a lot of things, and I hope Microsoft takes this one to heart. This is theirs, right? I hope they don't just start cramming features into it and then it becomes too complex to use. But the idea here is whether I'm on my Windows machine, Windows client, a Mac client, in the browser, on my iOS device, on my Android device, the meeting experience and the things I do to have that experience is similar across the board. Things like Meet Now allows me to quickly schedule a meeting. It's like, hey, we're having a 4-way chat here. This isn't working. We're not going anywhere. I'm going to click that Meet Now button. We're just going to have a quick call and solve everything in 5 minutes, as opposed to having everyone type things out in 30 minutes and kind of having a message lost. It also needs to be flexible. We talked about the devices and whatnot in field of view. My personal webcam here is not going to be good enough for a conference room of any size, right? And I've seen it. I'm using a really small webcam right now. It's designed for personal use. And I've seen those used in huddle rooms. But this is pre-pandemic. I want to say we didn't know any better. The Poly folks will probably disagree. I didn't know any better. So I'm like, well, I guess this is the best that we got. I didn't know there's this whole world of meeting room devices. So you see on screen here, I don't know what model that is, Glenn, but maybe it's an R30. I'm not sure. Is it? Hey, I got it right. I pass. You want to make sure you have the right devices for the room and the room sizes, and we can help design that for you. We can have that call and say, hey, what are you looking to do? Oh, we have a boardroom for 12 people. We also have 2 rooms that are for 6 people each. And then we also have these small huddle rooms for 2 to 3 people, these flex spaces. What do we do there? Have a call with us. We'll bring in the Poly people when necessary, and we'll design a room for you. I also want to mention
X30. X30.
That's an X30? Oh, fail. Does that mean I don't get my certification? I also want to point out that, and this is true across the board, this isn't just Microsoft, Teams will allow direct guest join. So that means if someone invites me to a Zoom meeting, I can use the Teams interface inside that meeting room, as you see here, using the existing equipment that's primarily geared for Teams, but with a one-touch click, I will join that Zoom meeting. And then when I exit, it returns to the Teams state. Again, everyone's kind of on the same page here. All the collaboration software is allowing that. Because it's in everybody's best interest, right? At the end of the day, we want this stuff to work for everybody. And again, for security is at the forefront of everything that Microsoft does. So obviously it has to be a pillar. We can't have, I don't know how to say it. Well, we don't want to have unexpected events and unexpected people enter our confidential meeting. And so all of the software that Microsoft does has security at the forefront, and using technology such as AI, it's going to look at all of the threats that's possible and prevent it. Give us preventative measures to take care of that. I mentioned at the beginning of this, again, this is going to be a really dense slide. I'm not going to go through every single bullet point. Don't worry. Teams Premium was announced. I think it was announced at Ignite. So there's going to be certain features that we may know about today, that we use today, are going to come into Teams Premium. You can talk to your account reps about that. And again, we can have a discussion about that, whether or not you need it. You can look through this if anything resonates with you. If you're a small business, you might like the virtual appointments. If you do a lot of webinars, there's a lot of webinar features that's already in Teams, and there's more coming. I like the intelligent recap. That's really cool. So that, if I'm double booked at any given moment, and if, I kind of make a decision, do I need to go there? I'm going to go to the quote unquote more important one, probably the one that my manager's in, right? I'm going to go to that meeting, but then I'm going to go back and look at this recap that Teams Premium gave and say, hey, was my name mentioned anywhere? And were there some tasks that were, again, AI will say, hey, Sherman's name was mentioned, and that he's got to do a report or presentation or whatever. It's going to make that as a task, and I'm going to see that. So, it saves me a bit of time, and then I can go back and ask the team members for clarity if I need to. But that's one of the features for Teams Premium. Not to be outdone, there's Teams Rooms Pro. So if you have meeting room devices right now, and you're at around the 25 room mark, on your 26th room, you will need a Teams Rooms Pro license. You can get that, of course, even lower than 25. Why would you? Because again, you're going to get extra features like front row, the intelligent audio and video on the upper right-hand corner there. We have multi-camera support, people counting, a lot of extra features that you might want to, might need to enhance your meeting experience. Again, I really like, let's see if my pen works before it does that. There we go. Let's see if that works. There we go. That section there, especially the dual screen support, to me is probably something really worth looking at, especially if you have larger rooms that have dual displays. You have two 46-inch TVs or whatever, but if you can't use them during a meeting, that's kind of useless and weird and seems like a waste of space and waste of investment. Well, Teams Rooms Pro allows us to take advantage of that. A couple more here. Again, all this is saying is Teams is growing, right? We know that. Organizations are having great success with Teams because, and part of the reason is, again, licensing bundles, and there's a trend towards consolidation towards a single tool. And a lot of organizations are choosing Teams. That 270 monthly active users with Microsoft Teams, that's obviously, it blew up in spring of 2020 at a rate that obviously no one would have predicted. Even Microsoft was struggling to handle the load, but it's stabilized now. 53% of organizations have standardized. 67% say they're going to standardize, right? The key on this slide for you, though, is as you think about what's happening in your organization. So those are some of the questions that you might want to ask. How many people are remote? What devices do we put into which rooms? Is there a way to standardize? Like, I don't want brand A in one room and brand B in another, because how am I going to manage all of that? I want one single solution. I want it from one vendor, probably, who can give me all of that and allow me to manage it. This slide's basically talking about a study that, again, Forrester did in 2021. It talked about, hey, these are large companies. They had a lot of different tools, a lot of different devices from a lot of different manufacturers. What if you consolidate the tools, the software side? Yep, that helped, and they knew that. But what they also found was that the meeting and the connectivity and meeting quality issues still remained as a result of the interface between hardware and software. translation, you kind of want to have that consistency across the board, so that if I'm using a Poly Studio P15, then hopefully you are as well. That way we kind of know, and IT has it's easy for them to manage everything, right? Yeah. So after the investment in the Teams devices, customers found that meetings were noticeably more productive with quantifiable business benefits. And so speaking of devices, do we have someone on the call that can talk about devices? We do. Hey, Glenn, it's on you.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks, Sherman. Some very good insights with regards to Teams and its adoption. And one of the things I'm going to kind of add to that is from a consumption perspective. So we recognize that a lot of organizations had migrated over to Teams during the early set of the pandemic and throughout the course of the pandemic. And as they're addressing that return, or whatever the hybrid work environment might be, we recognize that Teams is certainly one of those platforms that is at the forefront. But I would argue to say that the adoption and consumption of that has really been around the devices that really attach to that. And so today I'm hopefully going to talk to you a little bit about Poly. I appreciate some of the questions that are coming up. I haven't been responding to them. I'm leaving that up to people who are a little bit smarter than I am. But the reality is that where Poly fits in this space is different from some of our competitors. And so I do appreciate the questions that were asked around, the differences, because, and the best analogy that I can come up with is when we buy something new, right? So if we go out and we look for a TV, some of us, and this is maybe not everybody, but generally speaking, some of us will we'll just go out and say, I need a TV for my, whatever, or I need to purchase a car. And we go and purchase something that we maybe done some research, but we realize that after we bought that, maybe, a few months or a year or 2 years later, we recognize that there are some things that are different about that device. Maybe there are some new features. Maybe there is something that we wish we had. For example, with a car, like maybe we wish that we could remote start that car, or maybe we wish we could have a heated steering wheel. And that's where the differentiation between Poly and some of our competition is, in the fact that our solutions are designed to be able to work across different types of work styles in different types of spaces, but boast the most feature-rich functionality across those different platforms to be able to support those users no matter where they are, no matter what platform they're on, no matter what type of network they're leveraging, and no matter what type of arena that they're in. And so that is really where Poly shines. And we've been studying, work style personas for a decade now, and really trying to leverage that information in order to be able to understand, how do people work? What types of devices do they need in order to have the best audio experience and the best video experience? How do we leverage our solutions to be able to enable that individual that might be transient and maybe a hybrid worker, or that person that's 100% in the office, or that person that's 100% remote? How do we enable them that, regardless of the type of call that they're on, regardless of the type of network that they're on, the type of the type of device that they're leveraging, how do we ensure that they have the best audio experience? Next slide. So where Poly has been studying this for the last 10 years, HP has been studying this for the last 10 years, and one of the trends that we see is that hybrid workspace, and this is probably not new to anybody that's on the call that's listening, but that hybrid worker pre-pandemic was already growing. We saw more and more folks needing that capability of being transitional type of worker that needed that type of needed collaboration. And so, of course, throughout the pandemic, and as we exit out of the pandemic and into that next future of work, we recognize that those individuals, like the remote collaborator, that flex worker, they are the fastest growing users today. And so whether it's Teams, whether it's Poly devices, enabling these individuals to be able to have a voice or video collaboration experience that makes them feel as though they're part of the meeting and not necessarily just a listener to the meeting is really what Poly strives to achieve. Next slide, please. So when we take a look at Poly's portfolio, if you're not familiar with Poly's portfolio, our goal is to identify solutions that transcend across those different types of work styles. We insert Microsoft Teams here, but we have a number of different partners that we work with, and we take a look at those different types of workplaces that they'll be working in, or the different types of arenas that they will be meeting in. We underpin those solutions with a end-to-end management style. I did see a message, a question there about the type of management. So Poly has a single pane of glass to be able to manage all of our devices, and so that gives you capability of managing our headsets, our desk phones, our audio conferencing devices, and video collaboration devices, all through Poly Lens. And I'll get into that a little bit shortly, but what it really does is it gives you the capability of asset tracking, managing software and firmware updates, being able to pull analytics on some of those different devices to be able to ensure that your investment, you're getting the greatest ROI out of the investment that's been made. Poly is also well known for our support and services capability. So Poly has a number of services that are related to Microsoft Teams. They're related to voice deployments, video deployments, to be able to help companies recognize what they've invested into and where they want to be able to go, and help them kind of map through that process, but also be able to help them with the deployment process and even the optimization process of voice or video deployment solution as well. So we have a number of different services that are leverageable by you through CDW to be able to help you in your journey as you're addressing that hybrid work and what that future work looks like for your organization. Next slide. This is an illustration to really help you align the Poly product portfolio along with the HP product portfolio. So you can see that we've identified solutions that really kind of match well to the type of individual, whether that's that office communicator that's 100% in the office, or whether it's that the road warrior or the connected executive that is on the road more often than they are in the office. The idea is to be able to give people tools that really address the way that they need to work and the way that they need to be able to communicate. Next slide. This really helps you illustrate, and you can see whether it's an enterprise or whether it's a remote worker, there are devices that really kind of transcend both the enterprise as well as home. Things like our plug-and-play USB cameras, our headsets. And what we're starting to recognize and what we're starting to see from users as well as from our clients is, yes, there was a significant amount of investment that was made in 2020 around enabling people with cloud technology and around devices to be able to enable that, to leverage that cloud technology. But as we start to address this next future of work, we recognize that users want that capability that it used to be, I want to have my home office to be very similar to my work office. But now it's the reverse. Over the course of the last 2.5 years, users have gotten used to their own home work environment. The ability to be able to have that dock there with their displays, their headsets connected, their devices are all connected, everything works. And what they want is that ability to undock their notebook, go into the office and dock that notebook, whether it's in their cubicle, whether it's in a hoteling station, and everything connects. The displays connect, the headset connects, the phone connects, everything works just as it did at home, and I can undock and then go back home and work. I don't want to have to fiddle with technology in order for me to be able to be productive in my day-to-day work. We already recognize that users don't want or are resistant to coming back into the office. And part of that reason is because of the technology that they're leveraging when they return back to the office. They want that mirrored experience, regardless of whether it's at home to the office or from the office to at home. Next question. Next slide. So Poly's vision is really even pre-acquisition by HP. Our vision is total equality. And what that means by total equality is the experience, whether I'm on an audio call or I'm on a video call, that the experience that I'm getting is the same as if I was standing face to face with that individual I'm speaking to, or whether it was in that meeting space in that call that I'm part of. And so we want to deliver that on an audio perspective as well as from a video perspective. Next slide. So I talked a little bit earlier about, that analogy of buying that car, and that first car has, maybe it's just got tires and a body and an engine, but we just needed to get us from point A to point B. That's all we want. But as time goes on, we recognize that there are other features that we might like more as part of that car, part of that vehicle. And where Poly really differentiates ourselves is we have over 1,400 different patents that are focused around voice and video. Those 1,400 patents are designed to deliver the best audio experience and the best video experience, whether I'm using a headset, whether I'm using a desk phone, audio conferencing device, or I'm using video collaboration, personal or in a group space. And so the inherent technologies that we are embedding into our technology are really changing, making sure that we utilize something called Director AI that ties together the audio experience and the video experience seamlessly to ensure that they have the best experience. Not just the individual using the device, but even the far end recipient of that call as well. So things like acoustic fence and noise block AI, these are things that you're going to see Nandy's going to be presenting on these, but acoustic fence, what it does is it creates a bubble or dome or beam out of that device that blocks all noise outside that acoustic fence. Inside that acoustic fence, we're constantly listening to the audio to actually extrapolate non-human noise and to ensure that things like keyboard tapping, dogs barking, doors slamming, chairs moving, all that stuff gets eliminated from the conversation. It does not become a distraction to the conversation that's taking place. When you tie that audio AI together with the next slide, with the video AI, what that does is it ensures that the video will follow the audio movement in the room as it's going on. If that individual is working in a noisy environment, it's eliminating that distraction and that noise that's going on around them, or highly suppressing that around them. If that individual is on the road, there's a headset that I'm carrying with me today. When I'm on the road, that blocks out all noise in the vehicle. It's got wind block technology. I could be driving in a vehicle that had the top down and nobody would be the wiser. So pulling those two things together really helps us deliver the best audio experience, because you have video AI tied together with audio AI being managed by Director AI. So as part of our session today, we really wanted to be able to illustrate this. So with us, Nandy Preetha is at our Toronto EEC. And so Nandy, I'm going to turn it over to you for you to be able to walk through some of these technologies we just spoke about.
Yes, thank you, Glenn. I'm just going to request somebody to spotlight my screen. Am I spotlighted?
Done.
You are.
Okay, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nandy. I'm a pre-sales channel systems engineer from Poly HP. I work closely with Glenn and the rest of my colleagues on this call. As you can see, I'm coming live from Poly Studio X70, our all-in-one audio video bar that's designed for large room spaces. And I'm coming live from our Toronto demo center here located at 145 King Street West. And you're basically seeing me and hearing me from this one single device. This particular X70 bar is a dual camera lens system. It's similar to the E70 that's next to me right now. It's similar to this one. So it's basically the same dual lens camera system built into a audio bar that has both microphones and speakers built into it. So with the dual lens camera system in place, it's going to track speakers further away from this camera bar as far as 25 to 30 feet. So as of right now, I'm actually, I'd say approximately 7 feet away from this particular camera device, and I'm being captured by the wide angle lens, which has a field of view of about 120 degrees. So if I were to step back a little bit further back beyond 10 feet, you can observe how the lens switches from wide angle to the narrow angle lens. So when you do observe it, just probably give a thumbs up as an emoji or something like that, so I know. So at this point, I'm about approximately 17 feet away from the X70 bar. You're still seeing me and hearing me from this one particular device. It's actually our Android operating system based camera system. So it's also a network camera, you can call it. It has an IP address through which you can basically access the web UI of this device and perform other types of camera controls or configurations on this device. So just give me a thumbs up if all of you can hear me well and good from this distance. Now, I'm actually speaking in my normal voice, and I hope everyone was able to observe the lens switch at this particular distance. Probably walk back a bit further. This is about the 7 feet mark. Very soon you can see how the camera will adjust to capture the electric speaker. So as far as the video portion is concerned, under the Poly Director AI umbrella, all of our Poly devices or camera comes inbuilt with speaker tracking, group framing, or you can also completely choose to disable camera tracking altogether. So at this point, I have speaker tracking enabled on this device. That's how you observed how the camera followed me because I'm the active speaker in this particular room. So if I were to enable group framing from, you can enable group framing from either the web UI of this particular device that I'm actually trying to access it from my HP laptop like this, or you can also use a touch control called the TC8 to transition between these different trackings, right? I'm just going to quickly disable all tracking just to give you an idea of how the camera captures the entire depth of the room. So it's actually completely disabled right now. So you can see how the camera has stopped tracking. It hasn't reset to its huge field of view focus position, but you can have that reset via the touch control. That is the TC8. So with group framing enabled, if there were to be another participant in this room along with me, you will see how the camera adjusts to capture additional people in this particular room in a wider, tighter frame with group framing enabled. When we shift focus to the audio features on this particular device, the X70, all of our cameras except the E70, that's this one, comes inbuilt with noise block AI that Glenn was just talking about. And also it comes inbuilt with acoustic fence. I'm just going to quickly demo that for you.
The reason the E70 does not is because the E70 has microphone pickup for audio to track that audio in the room. It does not have microphones for communicating.
So I've actually, thanks, Glenn. I've actually enabled noise block AI from the web UI for this particular device. I'm not too sure if you can see it, but with the noise block AI enabled, what you should be observing in all of our Poly cameras is that it's going to learn any type of distractive, non-human noises that might be present in the meeting. And the AI technology behind it is going to learn that and completely nullify that sound, right? So with that particular feature enabled right now, I'm just going to clap my hands to simulate noise, and you're going to see how you wouldn't be able to hear it from the far end. So just give me a thumbs up if you don't hear me clapping, right? Oh, thank you. That took a while for you guys to show me thumbs up. I
was waiting for somebody else to, but sorry.
I see Ross, the emoji. But that's noise block AI technology. It's part of the Poly Director AI umbrella. It's essentially inbuilt into all of our Poly camera video conferencing devices. So next up, we have acoustic fence. And so with acoustic fence enabled, just like how Glenn was mentioning, it creates a virtual sound bubble or a dome within the field of view of the camera. So the participants present within the field of view will be heard, and anyone that steps outside of that virtual fence, they won't be heard, right? So this feature comes in really useful when you're trying to utilize a big meeting space and, segregate it into two different room systems or something like that. Or it also comes in really useful when you have glass walls in your meeting room spaces, or if there's no doors at all. So I'm going to quickly enable that. Again. So with acoustic fence enabled, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to walk towards my left, start counting from 1 to 10. So when I do step outside of that virtual fence or the bubble, you're no longer going to hear me. Just give me a thumbs up or just call out my name, right? So I can hear. Just going to start walking to my left. 1, 2, 3.
Stop at 3. The next number is 4, but we didn't hear it.
Oh, I am back in the fence now.
That's so cool. I love this demo.
Yeah, thank you. So that's acoustic fence in action. You can pretty much enable that on all of our devices. And with PolyLens, which is our cloud device management application, you could enable, disable these tracking features that as far as speaker tracking or group framing is concerned, and also enable and disable noise block, AI, and acoustic fence for USB peripheral devices right off that cloud device management application. That's PolyLens. So this is our demo center. I'm not too sure if you can see it, but behind me, I'm just going to wait for the camera to track.
I think you took the tracking off, Andy.
Oh.
And by the way, while Nandi's adjusting your settings there, if you click onto Nandi's video here and say opposite of fill frame, fit to frame, then you'll probably see the effect a little bit better.
Yes. So basically, in the newest Microsoft Teams Room update, that fit the frame issue has been adjusted. So if you were to join a Microsoft Teams meeting from a Microsoft Teams Room system, it will automatically adjust your tile to the particular frame. That was rolled out in one of the updates 2 months ago. So that's available with Microsoft Teams Room system. But I just wanted to show what the Teams Room on Android UI looks like. Behind me, I have an X50 bar, which is similar to the X70, except that it's designed for medium room sizes. So this is essentially what the Microsoft Teams Room on Android UI looks like. And it comes in with a touch control called the TC8. That's this one. So on the other side, I do have a Microsoft Teams Room on Windows room system. Not too sure if you can see it, but this is essentially a Microsoft Teams Room on Windows room system with a USB camera called the Studio USB connected to the compute over here. And it does come in with a touch control called the GCA, that's over here. And with this touch control, you could perform camera controls like, toggle between speaker tracking and group framing, just like what I did for the network cameras from my laptop. And lastly, I'd just like to show, I know we were talking about the Sync 20s. We do have the Syncs at our office over here at the demo center. So this is what the Sync 20 looks like. If you're going to be receiving this at the end of the call, this is what you will be receiving. That's the Sync 20. It's a USB speakerphone designed for small focus size rooms. You can see it has a USB cable. We also have a range of personal devices or USB peripheral cameras at this particular end. I have the P15 with me over here. This is a P15 that you can attach with your HP laptop as well. We also have P5 and other USB peripheral devices over here. All of our cameras are certified for Microsoft Teams. So now that it's all certified for Microsoft Teams, regardless of what Microsoft Teams Room license you use with, be it basic or pro, it's going to work. So with that said, I think I'll wrap up my demo, or I don't know if there's anything else I could demonstrate. Glenn, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Hopefully, I mean, I saw some great comments. Nandy, awesome job as always. So I'm going to wrap up on the last few slides, and then we'll open up for conversation. So I provided the next few slides to be able to help illustrate some of the different product portfolios. Everything that you see on the screen here is certified for Microsoft Teams. We do have a standard version of these headsets as well, which is kind of open standard SIP. It works across them, but these devices are purpose-built for Teams, meaning they have a Teams button on it that you can that allows you to be able to launch the application. And there's also some audio enhancements there that when you mute the device on your headset, it'll actually mute the application as well. So next slide, if you don't mind, Sherman. So across our desk phones, you know, there was a lot of studies, a lot of talk about the desk phone is dead. I got to tell you, personally, it is not. The amount of demand around desk phones has never been higher. Across this portfolio, what's interesting is all of these devices work on Microsoft Teams. However, how they work on Microsoft Teams is different. The Poly CCX series is the only device we have in our portfolio that fully supports Open Standard SIP and Teams simultaneously. Within the same device, not simultaneously. You cannot register them to two different platforms, but you can have this deployed in your environment that it's supporting an Open Standard SIP environment. And then as you migrate over to Teams, you can slowly migrate these devices over to a Teams native experience. The Edge E, the VVX, and the Edge B phones all support Teams, however, through the Microsoft SIP gateway, which is a reduced functionality or feature set on the voice portfolio. But if you have these in your environment, you can certainly leverage them to be able to work with Teams as well. Next slide, please. And then on this slide, I wanted to help illustrate, you saw Nandy kind of present on the X70, the X50, she talked about some different products. I just wanted to be able to illustrate to you and kind of put some images to name. So across the top is our Windows devices purpose-built for Microsoft Teams. So these only support Microsoft Teams and no other platform. Now they do support direct guest join to Zoom or to WebEx or any other platform that Microsoft Teams allows for. But today, these are only set up for pure Microsoft Teams environments. Typically, reason organizations would go with these is because they are only Teams. They communicate internally and externally only on Teams. If they have calls on any other platform, then they'll do that directly from the person's notebook. Across the bottom, this is more for an environment where it's open standard, and they do need to be able to go from either call to call, or maybe they're an organization that acquires other organizations and they have different platforms, or you could be an organization that's in transition, and so you have a mix of Zoom and Teams and WebEx in your environment. This is typically when you would go with an Android bar. As Nandy kind of pointed out, each of these come with a touch control, but they each come with a touch control. The top ones actually connect directly back to the compute that would be powering the system, whereas on the bottom one, it actually connects with the compute over the network. So it's a PoE connection for the TC8, and it's a PoE connection for your, and a network connection for your bar, and then they would find themselves over the subnet. On the far right-hand side, I know there's been some questions around where we are with certification on some of our products. X30, X50, and G7500 are all certified. The next release of software will have the G7500 licensing in there, and then the X70 it's pending. It's very close, but we're just not there yet. Next slide, please. So I know we've been talking a lot about Teams, but this is really where Poly's strength is. Whether it's around our headsets, our desk phones, or our video collaboration, we've always wanted to have those be able to support across different platforms. So there's a plethora of different ones. These are some of the top ones or some of the key partners we work with, but there are over 60 different platform partners that we work with. Next slide. So we talked a little bit earlier about the management capability. This really helps you illustrate that. You saw Nandy kind of talking a little bit around the capability of support of managing those devices. Poly Lens is that single pane of glass. It gives you a lot of analytics in order for you to be able to ensure that you're getting a long ROI out of the products and solutions that you're deploying internally. It allows you to be able to manage those devices, whether it's a headset, a desk phone, audio conferencing device, or video collaboration. Next slide. And then kind of as a next step, and this is where I'm going to open it up for questions, if there are anybody who wants to be able to ask any audio questions. We've provided a link for you to be able to kind of leverage a Poly tool. So we talked a little bit around the different work styles. And a lot of organizations maybe don't necessarily know exactly the types of work styles. Poly did this ourselves. In our Austin office, we actually went through this exact same process, or sorry, this exact survey, and identified what how we should redesign that space in Austin, Texas for our users down in Austin. What we recognized is that 3% of people actually came into the office and worked, and that we needed a lot more collaboration spaces. And so we actually redesigned that office to be able to have more meeting spaces. So this link here can help you identify some different trends and different work styles within your environment. And of course, go back to the CDW account manager that invited you. Engage with them, get them connected with your Poly or HP or your Microsoft folks. So system solution architects from CDW, whether it's on the Microsoft team or the collaboration team. We're happy to be able to come to you and help you design your solution specific to your environment and help you with your strategy as you kind of address that hybrid work environment. With that being said, I'll open it up for any questions that there may be.
Thanks, Glenn. That was awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to jam through those last few slides because I knew I want to leave some time for questions. I know there's been a lot of questions on the chat. Well, great. Yes, John, go ahead.
So if I'm hearing you correct, you're saying if you're in a sort of a 50-50 split Zoom environment and a Teams environment, you'd highly recommend the Android devices over the Windows devices.
That's right. Yeah, that would be a recommendation. Now, I don't want to complicate it, but because you can support direct guest join from Teams to Zoom, because Microsoft can support that, you could go with the Windows environment. Say maybe from a perspective of managing devices, you'd prefer to have a Windows deployed solution. You can certainly do that. The only thing to keep in mind is content sharing is not available through direct guest join. So I can see the far end, they can see me. I can hear them, they can hear me. But to push content into that call, if I'm going through the direct guest, so maybe I'm in a Teams environment joining Zoom, I would not be able to push that content. I would have to have a secondary device there to be able to push that content, or I would have to utilize the camera in USB mode.
Glenn, I think just to add to your point, another consideration when you're talking about third-party join is where do you want your primary partner mode to reside? Is it going to be in the Teams world or is it going to be in the Zoom world? Because either one of those have to be licensed to do the third-party join.
That's a good point too.
Yeah.
Lindvall, go ahead.
I have a question. So the enterprise management, does that come bundled with the product or is that a separate piece of product? And second part of that question is, if I got remote users at home, do I need a management server in my DMZ? And how do they, or they strictly go into the cloud to connect and manage?
Sure. The gentleman that I know who is best at answering this question is Bill. Is Bill still on?
Yes, I am on. So you asked it if you need anything in between. So
Yeah.
Between the device and Lens is in the cloud. So it's just 443.
Right.
There's one other port, I forget what the other one is, but yeah, it's just general 443 data for the most part.
Is it cloud-based management only?
Sorry,
Can you also manage on-prem? Is it cloud-based management only? Is it on-prem management is also an option?
Yeah, the only difference is there's two pieces to Lens. There's the Lens desktop, which is sort of your end user piece of it. So managing your own headset, your own USB webcam and stuff like that. And then that port or that maps into your cloud connection that your IT department that they're able to see. So they connect that way.
Okay. Sort of like Intune, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
And sorry, go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
Bill, I was
Yeah,
about
does
to. Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no,
I
go
was
ahead,
going to
Brandon.
say I put the Lens architecture document up in the chat for you right now.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
Now,
And to
sorry,
answer the-
is it included with the product, the
Yeah,
management?
I was just going to answer that part. So,
Cool.
so the application on the user PC, yes, anybody can pick that up.
Nice.
If you purchase Poly Plus support, then Poly Lens becomes a part of that offering. So you would have to purchase support in order to be able to get access to Poly Lens.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Any last questions? I know we're
Actually, I have
a couple
another
minutes
question.
over.
I have another question. I know that, since HP acquired you guys, do you see any product change from the HP point of view? Branding products?
It's a little early to tell on that, but and frankly, I'm not in those conversations, so that might be why my answer is it's a little early to tell.
Totally.
I expect that there will be some integration of some of their proprietary technologies and some of our proprietary technologies. Do I think that we're going to be, stepping away from any particular products? Not that I've heard, not that I'm aware of. I do think that from a new technology, we're going to be coming up with some pretty cool stuff over the course of the next 12 to 18 months that will be different, that will really change in the way that people kind of collaborate or enhance the way that they collaborate, I think is what it's best. But I don't really see a lot moving away from our portfolio.
Nice.
That's my viewpoint. I'm not sure if anybody else on the Poly team has a different viewpoint.
Great. Thank you.
I speak for all of them. Excellent. Well, we'll end on that. Sherman, how about you kind of wrap up with a couple of remaining words and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat as well. I'm sure did somebody? I put it in the chat as well. We're obviously past the hour. Thank you everyone for hanging around and there's still quite a few people on the call. Thanks for staying on. There's been some great chat. I've been trying to keep up and thanks to the Poly folks for answering some of them because I wouldn't have been able to. They're very technical. Thanks to Nandy for the demo. Thanks to Glenn for co-presenting with me. You did okay, Glenn. I'll be your wingman anytime. So yeah, again, if you have any other questions, reach out to your CDW rep, reach out to any one of us, people on the call, any CDW people on the call, and we'll try and answer your questions and figure out what you want to do with your meeting workplaces and devices moving forward. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherman, Nandy, and Glenn.
Thank you.